Hello fellow orchid lovers, it's Danielle here with a culture video on Miltoniopsis orchids. I'm sorry it took so long for me to make this. We were heavily involved the last couple of days in a major renovation in the house, one that we've been putting off for quite a while, so it's good. It took us several days, but it's done, so now I can finally get back to filming my culture videos for you guys. So this video is about my Miltoniopsis collection. So I'm surprised I still have a collection, quite honestly. Excuse me. And you'll have to forgive the raspy voice. It's early in the morning. My first cup of coffee in hand, and I went right to work to film this for you guys. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised I still have plants. Some of them are doing things and others are not. But I don't know, while things are green, I keep them. I don't have a tendency to throw things out even if they're pitiful. This one, I don't even know what the name of this one is anymore. I lost the tag a long time ago. And as you can see, it's not really healthy. It's not really happy. I don't even think it has eyes to grow a new growth. But it's still green. So I water it and see what happens. This is my Andrea West. This is my third one of these plants because I love the blooms. So I attempted to grow it 3 times. The first one that I got was a relatively small plant, and I don't know if that's the one that had, that one had fusarium and it died. The second one that I got was a huge, gorgeous plant, and it was in the summer. And when I started growing Miltoniopsis, I was under the impression from my research and then also from people that I watch that you really shouldn't let them dry out. They really, they're cooler growers, although they can be tolerant of a little higher temperatures if you have good air movement and a lot of humidity. But I was under the impression that you can't let them dry out because they don't like that. They get very upset. And so the second plant that I had was so big, and I was struggling to keep her hydrated, I kind of overdid it, and she got brown rot, and she just keeled right over. So this is my third attempt. This was not a very vigorous plant when I got it. The root system was never very good. And she's down to 1 pseudobulb. But she has tried to put out a new growth. She had one there that failed and died back, and I actually see another one right there. So she's trying to put out new growth. She's trying to save herself. Now a plant like this is not going to bloom for me, even if she does manage to mature either one of those new growths. It's not going to put out blooms for me for a very long time. So I'm not expecting anything wild and crazy, but really the thing that I want to share with you, and then I'll go over a few more of my plants and how they're doing, is I made an error in that I listened to how other people grow their plants, and I didn't take under consideration my environment. And I have killed more of these than I have successfully raised, as you can see. So I tell you guys all the time to, number one, think of your own environment. Don't really base what you do on what other people do. Think of your own environment. What are you able to give your plants? And that's gonna really help you succeed. I kind of stumbled on this by accident, but I don't grow these in full water culture. And I know some of you are probably like, but they need water. Yes, but they are so prone to this to the brown rot in water culture, especially if you have rescues, you can't do full water culture. They will die. They will get brown rot and they will die. And so with my rescue Miltoniopsis, which is the only thing I have right now, I'm doing semi-water culture. And actually they have a lot of dry days, and yet they're still growing. They're still growing. So yes, they need moisture, they need nutrients, they need all those things, but I would rather err on the side of dry than get the brown rot and lose them. So these are some of my plants that are doing a little bit better. I don't know if it's this one or that one that rebloomed for me. It actually did rebloom for me. So as you can see, a fairly healthy new growth on this one. And this, I mean, they're tiny little pseudobulbs. Not much was left on this plant. It was a small plant to begin with. As you can see, the older pseudobulbs were really tiny. But yeah, so she grew this pseudobulb last. Now she's growing this one. She gets a little more water than the other ones do because she does have a root system. All the other ones do not have a good root system. She's the only one that really does. This one, I kind of put one of my succulents in with it because I didn't know where to put the succulent, and it just grabbed a hold of the roots. So now they're friends. They're pot buddies. So as you can see, this last new growth, so I saved this pseudobulb and this new growth. It didn't do that well because it didn't have a root system, so you can see the crinkling on the leaves. Then I put out this new growth. Let me turn it around so you guys can actually see. Then I put out this new growth, which I got water in because I wasn't being careful. At some point, I just was so frustrated with my Miltoniopsis collection. I wasn't very kind to it, and I wasn't very careful, and I got water in the new growth, and so it stopped growing because the top part of it rotted. But as you can see, it is putting out another new growth there, so hopefully, you know, this plant will do better. She does have some roots with growing tips, but her root system is not healthy enough yet for me to give her a constant source of water. So I used the solo cups because that's all I had when I first moved up here. I didn't have any of my glasses with me. I brought the plants, but I couldn't bring the glasses. So I was using solo cups, and actually I find that they like the bases of them shaded. So they're in my master bathroom. That's where they grow. They're on a windowsill and they get northern light. So only at the end of the day do they get direct sun. It's a very bright window, but they only get direct sun at the end of the day. So these cups kind of block the base of them, and I find that they like that. They are doing so much better here than they did back at my other house on Long Island. And that might just be that I have more time to actually care for them. But I do think that the semi-water culture, when they have a poor root system, is the only way to go. Otherwise, they will develop that brown rot. And then we have this one. This is the only one other than the Andrea West that I kept, that I didn't lose the tag, although you can barely read it. I think she may have been the one that rebloomed for me because I remember that bloom. So anyways, she is also doing okay. She had these two pseudobulbs that I rescued, and then she grew on this new growth, which is, you know, getting decent now. She's putting out some new roots, as you can see, with those green growing tips. So she's on the way to saving herself. Yeah, so, and honestly, I've had these plants in a non-growing condition for a very long time. And I know a lot of people would have just thrown them out, but to me, it doesn't cost me anything to just throw water at their way every once in a while and see what they'll do. As long as they stay green, I keep them. It's not a big deal. You know, they bring a little greenery to my windowsill. But like I said, I made an error when I first started growing these orchids, and I think that's one of the reasons why I just couldn't keep them alive, because I heard that they need to stay moist and they need this and they need that. And yes, they do have a little bit more finite requirements, but they will tolerate their roots getting dry. Now, should you keep them dry for longer than a few days? No, probably not. But I do have a very humid environment in my new home. I do keep water, even if the water is not touching the roots, it is in the bottom of the glass. So I'm not gonna be able to show you because all the pebbles are gonna fall. But there is water down there. Very little, but there is water down there. Now the roots aren't touching it, but there is humidity. And then every couple of days I raise the water levels a little bit so that it is just barely touching the roots. And I watch them very closely. If they look like the base of that plant is getting damp, the water gets chucked, because I do not want them to get the brown rot. And that seems to be working. Now, I have this beautiful new Miltoniopsis. I got this for one of two reasons. I decided when I couldn't keep Miltoniopsis alive, I decided that's it. I'm not getting any more until I can figure out what they need. And these were kind of my guinea pigs, just trying to figure out what they need. So I got this one, A, because they're growing, and one of them did rebloom. So I feel like I'm moving in the direction of knowing what they need. And B, it's, you might have seen in the unboxing video, the tag is not correct. The website says Miltoniopsis Rogue Picardi. And so that's why I bought this one, because I had a Doberman Pinscher that was the love of my life, and she passed away 2 years ago. And when I saw an orchid named after my dog, who I love and I miss every single day, I had to get it. So I have to succeed with this one. But I think I will be able to now, because I figured out for my environment what works. And that's what I really want to drive home to you guys in all these culture videos, is that you take basic principles of growing, whatever method you decide to use, even if it's in traditional media like bark or moss or whatever it is. You really can't just grow the way everyone else does. You have to figure out what works in your environment if you want healthy, successful plants. I mean, if you just have Phalaenopsis and you don't really pay attention to what your plants are telling you, or what your environment or any of that, yeah, they'll grow. You know, Phalaenopsis are really hard to kill. They take a couple years of abuse and then they keel over. So unless you get a plant that's in you know, panic mode to begin with. But if you get a healthy plant, it's going to take a few years for you to kill it. So yeah, you can ignore your environment, and you can ignore all of the rules that go with growing an orchid. But they're not so much rules as guidelines. It's really just, this is the type of plant you have, this is where they typically grow, this is what they typically like, and then you see how that works in your environment and how you need to tweak that and make it work for you, regardless of whether you're growing in water or you're growing in traditional methods. If you had these orchids in sphagnum moss and you overwatered them, the result would be the same as if you have them in water culture and you overwater them: brown rot and death. So it's really no different. It's finding that water level and finding what works for each plant, what each plant needs, and then you will be successful. Like I said, this is the first set of Miltoniopsis I've been able to keep alive. Now, they went downhill and I almost lost all of them, but although some of them still seem like they might not make it, some of them are turning corners. And so I've got this one now. And I just love, love, love this type of plant. Not even just because of the blooms. The blooms are beautiful, don't get me wrong, especially on the Andrea West. And that's why I've bought it 3 times, because I just love that flower. But look at the way that these grow. Isn't that beautiful? With that fan. I just love it. I think that the growths on these orchids are beautiful, not just the flowers. So I do hope that now that they're finally turning a corner, and I figured out that I need to do semi-water culture with them, and if that means I have to water them more frequently, because I'm letting them dry out. So I water them one day, let them dry out for a day, day and a half, 2 days, water them again. It's a little more labor intensive, but if that's what they need to successfully grow, then that's what I have to give them. They seem to like to have the bases of the plants in shade. That's what I'm giving them. The solo cups are ugly. I don't like them. But that is what they have for now until I get something else. So yeah, that's basically what I do with my Miltoniopsis orchids. So, if you're growing them, no matter what method you are using, err on the side of don't rot your roots, don't rot your pseudobulbs. If they're in moss or they're in bark, make sure you're not getting it too wet. And you're gonna see signs of this rot. You're gonna see these bracts. They're gonna start to turn yellow and look wet. If you see that, danger. Adjust immediately, because that's a sign. Now, I'm not talking about when the bracts get yellow and fall off, because these plants don't keep this beautifulness. As the pseudobulb matures, all of these will fall off. But I'm talking about from the base, it has like a wet look to it, a yellowish wet look to it. If you see that, you're giving it too much water. Get rid of those bracts, because that's got water now stuck in those bracts. So peel those bracts off and give it less water, because you don't want to lose the plant. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, please certainly ask. I have a few more culture videos that I'm going to do. I have a few unboxing videos that I'm going to do. I already did them, actually. They're already filmed. I just have to post them. And then also, some of you wanted to see how I look for Fusarium, and then also how I treat Fusarium. I did do a video on this a while back, probably almost a year ago. I did a video on Fusarium, but I'll do another one for you guys, so you know what to look for and how to treat it. So I hope you guys are all doing really well. I hope you're enjoying your weekend, and I will talk to you all next time.